you check the children? Show a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what I...
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and so stoked to be joined by...
I'm Cecil Laird.
And if it please you, join us for a little bit of palaver today on a Return to the Horror Show for Hail to Stephen King. And so this is going to be a discussion about a film that has yet to actually be released in like wide format. So it is entitled The Life of Chuck. It's the latest from Mike Flanagan, his third time adapting Stephen King, you know, previously being Gerald's Game and Dr. Sleep, which were both great. But Cecil and I each had the opportunity to check this out early as part of AMC's Screen Unseen, and so it wasn't a Scream Unseen because of the fact that this isn't exactly a horror film per se, but it
Not
does
at all, no.
there's a few tense themes a couple times.
There's definitely some scary stuff, like, but
Yeah.
not like horror movie scary, just
Yeah,
like genuine dread scary.
yeah, for sure, especially in the first act.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's the thing, man. So this is based on a novella that King released 5 years ago, almost to the day. And so it was entitled If It Bleeds. It was one of the four novellas that were a part of that. But the stuff that goes on at the beginning of this movie and the themes it's exploring about very dire stuff going on in the world, because I guess we're going to make this a non-spoiler review.
Mm-hmm.
Reading that at the onset of a pandemic was scary as all hell. And I just remember the tense, just like very uneasy feeling that the prose of that first act, well, it's not technically the first act based on the unconventional structuring of this, but yeah, it really left me and a lot of other constant readers uneasy. So Flanagan adapting this got me really excited because I thought the sensibilities of how he likes to write and some of the subject matter that he likes to cover and things like Midnight Mass and, you know, Haunting of Hill House, he really likes to, you know, dig deep, get a little existential, hit the feels and all that other stuff. So I enjoyed this greatly. I'm not sure all audiences will, because like if you're more of the cynical variety as opposed to the sentimental variety or something, you might not be as into some of the themes that this is ruminating on. But I'm very curious to hear how you felt about this film, since I did a little 3-minute out of the theater last night, but that didn't even scratch the surface of how I feel. But I'm very curious about how this one affected you, man.
So it's an interesting thing, this one. Again, just to reiterate, this is not a horror movie by any stretch. It is a Stephen King thing, which is why we wanted to cover it under Hail on the channel. We have been doing trailer reactions and stuff. Plus, I know you guys would very much be curious about Fuego's thoughts on it at the very least. So I had heard so much about this kind of going into it. It unfortunately fell a little bit victim to burden of expectations. Not in so much as I knew what to expect, but everyone that I saw talking about either the movie or the story, especially yourself, saying it's one of your favorites, like I was, and knowing what King can do when he really gets into drama versus you know, horror and stuff. So I was like walking into it hoping for like a transformative movie that I'd like, oh my God, everyone needs to run out and see this. And while I think there is a degree of that to this film, I think its unconventional sort of presentation, which it's not an unheard of presentation, it's just unconventional. While it worked for me, I don't know if it'll work for everyone. And
I don't either.
I don't know if it all the way worked for me either. Like, I liked a lot of it. I liked the through line, the overall message. You know, that was a really cool thing. If you guys have a chance to see this, perhaps a little bit elevated, you know, on a substance or what have you, then you might get a different sort of perhaps further appreciation of the film, because it does have a couple of wild ideas that it does. And
a little bit of psychedelia to it, I would say. Yeah.
I liked the first act the most, but I really only liked the first act as much as I did because it was informed by the second and third act. So it was an interesting film for me. It's not my favorite Flanagan project by any stretch, but it is definitely a very well done piece of art. Like, this is definitely a piece of art, and I loved a few performances in particular. I thought Mark Hamill was amazing in this movie, amazing in it. And so yeah, we'll break it all down. But yeah, I mean, just kind of doing the overall thoughts. That's where I was at on the overall. I will say the thing that I messaged you last night after seeing it was the end did affect me pretty. Like, it was one of those occasions where I had to sit in the chair for a bit and like kind of make sure I was fully composed before I got up and left the theater and stuff, because it, like, literally the last line and the last series of images that you're shown, like the whole last scene, is very impactful if you're someone that is concerned about a very legitimate fear that people have concerns about. So it's crazy. It meant a lot while also not being quite as transformative as I was hoping it would be. So I'm kind of two minds about it, but overall, it's a really well made, really well done movie.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I wanted, like, when you suggested last night when we were leaving the theater, when you texted me, you're like, you want to do it tonight? Or I was like, I want to sit and let this one simmer a little bit, because perhaps it did even fall, like, to the burden of my expectation of it. I'm like, Flanagan adapting one of my absolute favorites. But then as I was I started going through the novella a little bit last night, and the first portion, which is technically the third portion, but that's not really super spoilery, is my favorite part of the book, and actually it's the shortest part. So I liked the way that Flanagan expanded on that section and really enhanced, I guess, I don't want to use the term preamble, but it does set the stage, so to speak. And overall thoughts, I loved it, but I didn't find myself as over the moon about it. What I will say is that upon revisiting a little bit of the novella and remembering how the first section hit with such a punch, I did feel like it kind of slowly lost steam. And the thing that Mike did so good, especially with the ending that you mentioned, is he kind of brought that through line and tidied things up a little bit with the ending, and really just kind of made it feel a little bit more cohesive, which King regrettably does have in his older years. Like, he'll have a great idea that he has trouble seeing it through to the end. Some people are critical that he's always had that issue, but he's proven over the years that he can, hit the finish line accordingly. So, but yeah, performances I thought were tremendous, especially the newcomer kid. I want to just double check his name. I want to say it's Benjamin. Oh goodness, the one he plays. Yeah, he's a newcomer, Benjamin Pajak. So he plays. And so there's three different versions of the character Chuck. The one who you see in like his adolescence, not when you see Tremblay playing Chuck as a teenager, but the one who gets like the largest chunk of the third act. I thought that kid was just exceptional, man, and just really impressed me significantly. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to that. But yeah, overall thoughts, man, I enjoyed it, especially from a visual standpoint, from like an ensemble standpoint, just the amount of talent assembled. I mean, Karen Gillan, you mentioned Mark Hamill, but lots of other small little roles. I mean, you get our Nancy in there from Nightmare for a minute. She gets a cool cameo. Flanagan's wife gets a cool cameo. I mean,
a couple people from Hill House, right?
Yeah, lots of peeps from Hill House show up in this, and some of his other projects. He really enjoys, to bringing in some of the same actors and whatnot. So yeah, man, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But while it did remind me about some of the aspects of the original story itself that I enjoyed but didn't find quite as engaging, but boy, did he nail the first section of the movie. I'm not going to say, that it is what it is. It's really tough with this one because the trailers, as I think you may have noticed, because you reacted to both of them, right?
Afterwards, I still had no clue what the movie was going to be about.
The trailers were deliberately vague, and upon watching the movie, do you understand why they were deliberately vague?
Yeah.
They did not want to give away, I guess, the gimmick of the movie and stuff. But
even if they had just done trailer stuff, like they could have done trailer stuff from just Acts 2 and 3, and people would have thought that it was just from Acts 1 and 2. Yeah. But at the same time, I think this was the smarter way to market it, although I unfortunately don't hear very much buzz about it. But I will say to the credit of Stephen King fans, or it's either this woman was either a massive Stephen King fan, or this group, specifically a woman was loudest in the group. But as soon, like, the credits started, because as you said, it was a screen unseen, so we didn't know what movie technically it was going to be till it started. So the first bit of company credits roll, and then when the logo, the title hit, there was actually some cheers in the back, like, yeah, like just really excited that it ended up being The Life of Chuck. So while I am making the point that I feel like there's not a ton of buzz about it, at least amongst the movie people that I watch on YouTube and stuff, there is an obvious excitement for it. So I don't know. It's gonna. I would have a hard time predicting how this one's gonna do in the box office.
Yeah. The box office is where I'm curious, because obviously it's been getting tons of critical praise since it won the top award at TIFF last fall, and Neon has positioned it as a potential awards contender and everything. But especially with hitting in the summer, I'm just not so sure. But to continue, because I didn't hit on the acting. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Oh no, you're good. You're good. Yeah. So the story, once again, it's really tough to hit stuff without getting spoilery. But the Life of Chuck, Charles Krantz, is our lead character in this film that you see in different iterations of his life. And so as the trailers show, you see him as an adolescent living with his grandparents, one of which is Mark Hamill is his grandfather, and just those formative years. But then you also see him grown up, played by Tom Hiddleston, and he has this great moment where he just kind of loses himself in kind of a dance number with this woman who has just had kind of a traumatic thing transpire in her life. And it's a very joyous moment within the film. But then there is also, without getting too much into it, kind of an exploration of the entirety of his life and those he's encountered, and how those things inform the multitudes that live within you as you go through your life, and just as your mind enhances and becomes bigger and bigger. Those are the themes, with getting less into the narrative and more into the themes, that I love so much about this movie. I just really appreciate the fact that it is a celebration of life, and perhaps that it can end when we're not expecting it, whether it's a loved one or whether it's yourself or whatever. These themes really mean a lot to me. And also the fact that it does have that essence of psychedelia. I still think back as I watched the movie to some of the themes that Flanagan explored during that conversation in Midnight Mass between his wife Katie Siegel and the character who had the drunk driving thing and was the older love interest. And remember where they have that conversation about what happens when we die, and the two differing viewpoints on that. I feel like this is kind of Flanagan ruminating about that, what do we become in the after? And there is almost a spiritual essence to this film, which I think is why it will hit with some, and then others who are more of the cynical, flippant variety, it may not speak to them quite in the same fashion. But that's why it spoke to me so much, because of the fact that there are I'm trying to paraphrase the Whitman line, where he's like, I am large and there are multitudes within me, and all this. I
contain multitudes.
I contain multitudes. Yeah. So those themes, it goes back to my days of psychedelic experimentation, my 20s and whatnot. But that's why I think, to your point that you mentioned earlier about if your mind is enhanced to some degree, you may the themes of this film, I think, may really resonate a lot more with you. But
it's not necessary, but you would get perhaps it would be one of those cool cinematic experiences for you at the very least. I'm not saying you have to be elevated to get the movie.
Oh, not
that's
at all.
Certainly not the case.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, pivot to the acting though, as you were already. Well,
yeah.
You
can't
forever with being so vague about stuff.
Yeah, I can't say much about the story other than I did enjoy how it played out, and I will say that there's kind of similar tonage to Big Fish, which is one that I absolutely love. So
it's one of Burton's best, man. Love that movie.
But acting wise, I thought everyone was great. I particularly loved, because this is something that is always fascinating to see actors act. What a couple of them act. Again, we're not spoiling what they act, but I particularly loved Karen Gillan and Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yes, they had such exceptional chemistry.
Good, man.
And I love the subplot that they explore between the two of those characters. Is if you were faced with a certain circumstance, what would you be inclined to do? Like, I love the whole marriages or divorces. What do you think is happening right now? I thought that was a really interesting bit.
So I thought they were fantastic, and I thought their their denouement was incredible. Their story, so to speak, their story resolution. But I will also say that you missed someone that, some might say was cameo. I say a supporting role. It was just a one-time appearance in the movie, but Heather Langenkamp killed it. I thought
that's why I said awesome. Nancy, because her name was eluding me for a split second there. I was having a brain fart, but her scene is funny as hell
it's
too.
So man. Good, yeah.
With the muffins and the gossip and everything.
I like that she's a Flanagan go-to now, also, because that dude's gonna have a career forever, so that means she's gonna keep going in perpetuity as well, which is great. I mean. She
Flanagan has a cameo. Christine has a cameo too, which you see early on.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
It's in the car pileup early on. Which is
that's funny.
Cool.
But yeah, so the acting I thought was fantastic. Yeah, the kid was great. The young version, the teenage version was good too. Didn't have that much time, but yeah. But yeah, overall, I thought the acting was fantastic. There's absolutely no one that took me out of the movie. Everyone really played their parts very, very well. Again, I specifically want to shout out Mark Hamill, because what he had to play in lesser hands, he could have come off as just an old curmudgeonly grandpa. But in his hands, he came off as a haunted man that it turns him hard at times, and yet he also, he has a softness that you can tell that he's just squeezed down into a small part of himself because he felt the world required that of him. And it's really like, to get all of that without him ever having to say anything about himself, just in how he has this one specific discussion with Chuck's character, or the kid version of Chuck. I thought the math so scene, much.
The discussion of math, I thought was just so.
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah.
But also, like,
I loved the cosmic calendar thing too. That was dope.
Yeah.
Was that from the book, or was that from the novella?
I didn't get to revisit the entire thing because it's 100-something pages. I was just going to, because it's broken up into 3 acts. So I deliberately was going back to see how Flanagan had like expanded and actually condensed, like the middle portion, Act 2.
It was short.
It's longer in the book, So that was the one that was truncated the most, without really, that doesn't really spoil much. And as far as the acting goes, that is one thing I have to mention. I don't think it's much of a spoiler, because I saw Campia and a few other people when I watched their out of the theaters that they're like, Tom Hiddleston wasn't in it as much as I was expecting.
That's
so
true.
I mean, keep in mind, everybody, you're exploring different iterations of Chuck's life, and so you're going to see him at a couple different ages. You actually see him as a very young kid early on with the grandparents, and that was actually Flanagan's son. He's a little cutie. Yeah. So, but yeah, Hiddleston is in it for like a little bit. I mean, it's not like cameo status or subplot, but he's not like the main theme of it, because it's different iterations of Chuck. So just to lay that out there. But the dance bit I loved, and man, that guy's got some skills, dude. I gotta say.
Yeah.
He can move.
For sure. Okay, so let's talk about the actual filmmaking of it. I thought all of that was fantastic. Flanagan knows what he's doing when it comes to visual presentation, and he and his cinematographer killed it. Like, it was very, very well done. There were things. Yeah, I mean, I can't say too much because it'll spoil, but one of the things I do want to mention, because I noticed this, and it was confirmed when I saw something afterwards, a little thing with Flanagan came across my TikTok. And did you notice the aspect ratio?
I guess I didn't know.
So there are 3 different aspect ratios, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really interesting, because when he's young, it's the biggest it is. Like it's like IMAX ratio when he's young.
I was thinking it would correspond with the different ages.
So because there's even a line in the movie that says Chuck felt his life was it was narrowing as he got older. And so that's literally what it does. It's super big, and then it gets a little bit more narrow, and then by the end, it's like the wide screen. So
that corresponds.
Or not? I mean, So okay, I didn't spoil anything by how I just phrased it.
No, and that's actually really cool too, because now that makes me put together with a line in the second act where he says, he speaks this language of, accounting or business or whatever, but he feels like he speaks other languages too, even though he's starting to forget a few of them. Mm-hmm. And so, the whole narrowing thing, and to have the visual accompaniment with that too, just shows how just very careful and deliberate and just meticulous of a filmmaker Mike Flanagan is, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all of that was fantastic. The sound design was great. The effects, when necessary, were really cool, and a particular effect that was a really simple digital effect, but something kept again, I'm not going to spoil what, and Fuego, be careful how you react, but something kept happening that every time it happened, it was accompanied by a very loud pop, and as it continued and got more and more, it was really amazing, the spectacle of it, and like how scary it actually kind of was and stuff like that. So there's not like, it's not a horror movie, so there's not like gore and stuff to talk about, but there is a lot of digital augmentation, some digital work. There's at one point there's a lot of what could be considered digital billboards on windows, so like that sort of effect is utilized at times, but everything that was utilized only helped to augment the storytelling. Nothing took me out of the film at all.
Yeah, and there's a great bit that you actually see in the trailer very briefly, where you see that young version of Chuck, played by Benjamin, that I liked so much, where he's at this dance and he walks out the door, and the way that they have this purple lighting from the inside of the dance just illuminating him outside as he's standing and just looking up at the stars, and this just dreamlike sort of sequence as he's just getting lost, looking up at the sky and kind of pondering his own existence, even at such a young age. Like, it just really, it epitomizes in a lot of ways for me just the fact that this is a full-blown like rumination on life, and how even younger kids sometimes, I kind of found myself in that boat, because I was struggling with the religion that was being thrust down my throat and everything at that particular time, and even as a young kid just wondering, what does this all mean, and what is my place, and I'm just a speck in the spectrum, and how do I find my place? But that's why I love the themes of this film so much, because it's like I deserve to like enjoy life and strive for excellence, and I am actually a meaningful part of all of this. And I mean the whole message of this movie, in my estimation, about cherish the time you have, and it's a very positive film, and that's I think why it speaks to me so much, if we're gonna kind of just have the wheel of Ka come full circle in this review. So
yeah, agreed. So yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. I just, in case you guys missed it, if you just see this review, I did put up Fuego had another Hail to Stephen King. This is a Pax Tower Tuesday.
So are you going to put this up later today then?
Yeah, I'm going to turn it around right now.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Cool. Okay.
So yeah, it's everyone can see this, but yeah, as I was saying, Fuego just reviewed King's new book, Never Flinch, the newest Holly Gibney story. So
another one. Yeah, she's 7 now.
So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you to our patrons for supporting the channel. And Fuego, I'll turn it over to you to close her out.
Yeah, so grande gracias from my end as well. Boy, I'm like kind of stuck on the mantra right now. I hope we get to share more of this palaver sooner rather than later, everyone. And until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos. Constant readers and viewers alike say thank you. And until next time, remember, read Stephen King if you've never read The Life of Chuck. It's contained in If It Bleeds. And I guess that'll do it. Stay scared, Fright fans.
Stay scared.